It's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5 for a Thursday. Back Toronto is a snowy Thursday. And we have, whoa, when hasn't it been a full time or a full day in these past, well, it's probably going on about a year now, isn't it? A whole year. So if you're new to Live at 5, typically it's Mondays, but since this event started over a year ago, I decided to do more as I was uncovering information and wanting to share and focusing on mental health, which I'm going to talk a little bit about today too as well. If you see my recent posts, then you're going to see that I was commenting on, which I've seen more and more, is mass coming into advertising, whether it's full blown somewhere out there and or emails, meetup sending me a email with a picture of somebody with a mask on it as if it is something that's acceptable now, or we're all in the same boat together, and so therefore we have to kind of impress or press upon the people that this is how we care the most, which if you've done a lot of research, then you'll know this is not how we're going to care when there are lies and more lies and damn lies that are being put out there. So this is kind of out to you, out to anybody, is that if you get any of these advertisements, just jot down, just take the time. It may be that it's a radio station. It may be that it's, I don't know, Costco, or it may be, in my case, it was Meetup, and I sent them a quick email back, a very nice one, kind one, for in the guise of mental health, because that's where we all do come together. Although some people don't believe that what this is doing is more harmful, so I can't, it's not about convincing anyway. So we have to bring the peace and the joy and the calmness and the compassion, everything within ourselves, and bring it out more and more. So I just sugarcoat it with the idea of mental health for everybody, because it is true. In truth, it is that for the people who are in a lot of fear, right? It's very much like that. So if you're on, say hello. So what did I kind of write today? I wrote abuse. I'm going to talk about that for sure. Nature, which is really by far an important word always. I always come back to that. And dam. We have a dam up here, yes, but we have the damned, and I don't want to believe that word in the way that you're going to hell. That's what it means, and or you're angry and frustrated, which, that's a waste of energy. Something new. So if you're new to this, whatever, Live at 5, then we're going to go through something new, learn something different, and, well, might be completely different, might be new to some people, but not everybody, but it's fun though. So I have mentioned time and time again that I'm doing a book club on a couple of platforms. iAwesome is one of them, and just with a group of people that I know, and we're going to be doing the second book this month. It's 9 books in total. Actually, there's a 10th. But as I'm reading the second book to come into and I'm rereading it, and I don't mind rereading them, because there's information in here that is true to all of us. And so this is something I want to talk about. In the Anastasia books, if you don't know what they are, it is bringing to reality how nature has played a role in our lives and in the past for a very long time, and with certain people that have kept in that, but most people don't know these people. This is out of Siberia, and the title of this is book 2, and the title of the chapter is Alien, or I think it's Alien or Man. And the idea here is when certain things are being talked about, this particular person who almost can't believe his ears at times, so he has to go and do his research as to who we are. Who are we? And in here, she throws out in the book 1 about being able to tap into information, being able to learn things, and being able to be even speedier than the speediest computer. Now, we're not talking about us here who have been trained to externally look for information. You have heard of the gut, having a gut feeling. You may have heard of higher self. You may have heard of Akashic records. So in here, Vladimir, who is the writer, he wasn't originally a writer. He never aspired to be a writer, but he was asked to write these books, was prophesized to write these books. And so in here, we are confronted with an unknown phenomena, which is the interaction of living substance over huge distances. Now, you might have heard of distance healing as well. And these articles, unfortunately, contain many unfamiliar terms, and doing with references to work with other scholars, it would be quite a task just to read them all. And that's, the information age, lots of information out there, let alone make sense of them. And this was actually a scientist was talking about this interaction of living substance over huge distances. And as Vladimir says here, still I have found out that scientists are aware of man's capability to make contact at a distance. They are aware, too, of the universal data bank used by Anastasia. It's the series, The Person, the book. And this is like mid-1990s when Vladimir first met with her. She calls it the dimension of the forces of light. Well, vibration, energy, information. When I did my study on the cell membrane, to do with the omegas, kind of went down that path, and that's what is synonymous: energy, information. Some crystals, right? Crystals, rock crystals, use different crystals for different things. Why? Because what's stored in the positioning of the crystals or the molecules, why they're this color, why they're soft, all the different properties of them, is energy and information, right? Everything is energy. So she calls it dimension of the forces of light, home to all thoughts ever produced by mankind. Modern science also speaks about this phenomenon, which refers to as a supercomputer. So I wanted to bring light to our man, who we all are. That's what we all are, is man, and just whether we call it supercomputer and it's kind of contained in the brain, or it's the essence of who we are and what is there and how we connect and so forth. Really fun. So the other thing, though, on the lighter note, on the tastier note, I just want to show a brief picture here. Let's see if it'll come on. Yeah. So I'm getting back to raw food more and more. That's it. Putting my foot down. But I got a dehydrator for Christmas, which tells me I've been raised in the Christian faith, but didn't go to church. This is pumpkin ravioli, and what I really want to do, over the course of this time, I'm going through my, going back, but doing a little bit more intensive, I guess, recipes and stuff if I have the equipment now. It's butternut squash, which I'm going to dehydrate in my dehydrator. Listen to these ingredients: olive oil, salt, pepper, pine nuts, cashews, nutritional yeast, which you can and cannot use, but lemon juice, Bragg's liquid aminos, but that's just like soy sauce, so I would just use soy sauce, organic and non-GMO and no wheat and stuff like that, and water. And that's it. Thyme and some salt and pepper, and that's it. So like any raw, many of these raw dishes are actually kind of interesting because, there's no baking, so you don't have to think about the chemistry in baking. You can change them with the flip of a dime. You can change these recipes, and they say thyme here, but I could use basil, thinking, it goes well with Italian food. So this is a great book, and actually these are two of my favorite people on the planet. Let's see if I can have it come up. There it is. Kara Brotman and Marcus Rothkranz, two of my favorite people. And Kara, which I learned through reading this and been kind of following Marcus for years anyway, is the sister of Giuliano, which I have his Uncooked Raw book. And I didn't know that, but they had started the restaurant together. And we go from there. So something new, and raw food, there's less dishes. Actually, the dishes and pots and pans are a whole lot less dirtier. You know, they're just, you know, when you do the oils and stuff. And we can go into process for sure. I do want to give a shout out before we get into kind of the news to Sacha Stone. I think Sacha Stone is doing a great job speaking from this place, no matter who people think he is from the past. You know, if he was a musician of sorts, and that's kind of where there, and you know, he's comfortable being in front of people, so be it. He's comfortable in front of people. I see the judgments come out in so many ways when it comes to who people were in the past. The past is the past. It may help that he was a musician, so now he's very comfortable in speaking and does a lot of speaking things. He doesn't even really care to talk about himself. But at the end of the day, people like Sacha Stones and James Corbett, you know, he's another one that is speaking and speaking out. But there's a lot of things to go through that has kind of, how I would say, come through my consciousness in these last few days, really. There's lots. So let's get started on what we're going to do here. I had to go seeking for this, but that's okay. It wasn't too difficult. There was a short video, and these are just some things. Again, if you're just watching this video, then you're going to get why I would, why my gut feeling on this is the red flags from the very get-go. Don't have to even listen to anybody to tell you the truth. It's all out there in the news, on the health websites, the WHO websites, the Economic Forum website, the CDC website. I mean, and you listen to the press conferences, and you're going to get the questions. But this was a short video that was going out. There was no name of the person, but if you got this video that was talking about a clinical lab scientist, PhD in virology and immunology, and he and others tested positive 1,500 COVID tests, samples collected in Southern California, and when they ran them through another way, here I'm just going to beat it, conscious postulates and observation under an SEM scanning electron microscope, they found no COVID. No COVID in any of the 1,500 samples that had been positive. So, and I think maybe this fellow's just, now this is back in December. And this is the interesting thing about certain things. It's the middle of February. And because this is not on mainstream media, then you may take this while. But what they did find of these 1,500 samples were mostly influenza A. That's what they most were. But some of them were influenza B as well, but not a single case of COVID. Now, because of that, they actually questioned. So let's just say they weren't necessarily, how can I say, against what was going on. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were, not from what I can read here. And all of a sudden, they do what they do, and they start to question. These scientists start to question. And so all of them, whoever us is, spoke to CDC and asked for viable samples of COVID. Of course, CDC had none. They had none. And then they went, well, what do you mean you have none? So is this imaginary? Is this fictitious? They started going down that path, that how is it that you can't have any samples? And then, you know, and so forth. So then they went and did crunch the numbers, which we're all able to see front and center, some of the stats, that the flu is called COVID. This is them, you know, this is them. When I say them, who is this person here? Let me say his name. Joe Rizzoli. Joe Rizzoli is talking about this. So at the end of the day, the people that are dying, this is what I've said to people have always died. We're just not used to hearing how many people die of the flu They've been put in the fear that flu can kill you. Of course, you have comorbidities, you have these things going on, you are in a weaker state. And if you're on a lot of meds, like a lot of people are in long-term care facility, just like zombie. You want to see zombies? Go to a long-term care facility. Of course, they won't let you in now, but if you did, in the few that I've been to, yeah, they're all zombies. They're all zombies. They must be all not all of them, probably not all of them. But the one where my grandfather was, where he was 100, they were the ones that I could see that were brought out to the central hallway just to sit there in their wheelchairs drooling. It was so uncomfortable, and so it just left me with so much questions going, what's going on here? And that wasn't too long ago, a handful of years ago, several years ago. So here we have people that have died. Death is not unusual. But with comorbidities such as heart disease, cancer, diabetes, emphysema, etc. I believe on the top 10 is 3 of them are respiratory illnesses, pneumonia. And I had already read things about pneumonia and China and how 2 million people, minimum, according to the research, die of pneumonia in China every year, but upwards to possibly 50 million or more. So that's a large number, and they've been calling this, the people that were first cases were pneumonia. So that they just completely fabricated this thing, and they could use that because, of course, people are falling with pneumonia, people are falling with flu, and it happens, and they weakened their immune system, and then they died. So this is almost like the word for word, like the short video that this scientist came on for. So we at the 7 universities that did the lab tests on these 1,500 samples are now suing the CDC for COVID-19 fraud. The CDC has yet to send us a single viable, isolated, and purified sample of COVID-19. But what have others been saying? They have been saying there is no isolated virus. It was in the paperwork from the Irish government. We don't have any sample. Canada, we don't have any sample. There are no samples. So he goes into a little bit more detail here. So all the 4 papers where they talked about isolation, our own Canadian person who worked at Health Canada had commented that they were using isolated incorrectly on the papers, and they mention here those 4 same research papers that describe the genomic extracts of the COVID-19 virus never were successful in isolating and purifying the samples. So all 4 papers written on COVID-19 only describe small bits of RNA that were only 37 to 40 base pairs. Now you have to imagine the DNA, what that looks like, base pairs, along which is not a virus. So they say in here the viral genome is typically 30,000 to 40,000 base pairs. Remember the A and T and that in a DNA. So with as bad as COVID is supposed to be all over the place, how come no one in any lab worldwide has ever isolated and purified this virus in its entirety? Good question. So asking good questions. So the more and more people that are asking good questions, and I was kind of seeing videos in France. Boy, they're just laying down everything. They're throwing, the teachers are throwing away their books. The police firemen are throwing down what they have. The doctors and nurses are throwing down their garb, and not that they want you to know, because at the end of the day, how do you play a game? You don't want the masses to know what's happening, so you own the media and you don't tell them. So a game it is. A damn good game they are playing for the masses. But this has been a long time running. If we think about how long slavery's been around, we think about the currency, the working for somebody else, being an employee, slave, employee. I know there's differences, but at the end of the day, there are some similarities between the way employees are treated. When we think about, and I'm thinking about the world here, think about the child labor that they've had. I mean, we can go on and so many different things. So let's just see what else we have here. I just have to kind of go through my, I'm just going to go through my notes first. So that's the lab scientist. I'm going to put that link below because that video was going around. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is really what we want to get to the bottom of, I like to say, is the why. You know, is the why. Why is this going on? If we can't say, we can skirt around all these other, not even skirt around, dive in like it's a rabbit hole on masks, on distancing, on the PCR test, that there is no isolated virus. But why would they be doing this? Why would they, it seems like capitalists or big money maker businesses that absolutely want to keep control, you know, control over your mind to buy materials, all of this stuff which we really do not need. And I'm guilty of it. I'm absolutely guilty of it. Being raised, children, you don't know any better. But what when I say abuse comes in. I mean, I could put so many words in front of abuse right now. You mean, just think of verbal abuse, all the verbal abuse that's coming from this division that they're creating, and the fear that gives it permission and right to people to say the things that they're saying to people. I mean, I mentioned this before. A person who's Asian, who's in my neighborhood, she wouldn't dare not wear a mask, even though she doesn't believe in it, and she is well aware of these other things. She wouldn't dare, because she's hearing from so many of her Asian friends the abuse, not just verbal abuse, physical abuse. And this is the crazy thing that's going on as a result of doing this. So division, the fear abuse, putting fear into people is abuse. And it's really abuse of anybody's power. Oh, you better do this or you're going to lose your job. I can just imagine how many people, good people, that are in these positions, these jobs. And I've heard about some of them, whether they're professors or they're medical, and they have what they have in their life. They have debt. They have children. They have bills to pay. So they're tied, handcuffed, so they can take, they're taking this abuse for the reasons they are. Well, hats off to them. They're like heroes in some ways for holding things together, and for their children. So elder abuse, I talk about that. I don't think these long-term care facilities should exist. They should not exist. Being run by corporations, people that are all they care is about the mighty dollar. Not so crazy. That's so crazy that way. So, oh yes, and what else I want to talk about? Abuse. So abuse. So at the end of the day, we're here playing games. This is how I would look at it. There's some games being played, calculated, premeditated, knowing the psychology due to research. So if you've never heard of this before, the idea is a lot of great minds that have been working on our planet science research and stuff like that. And what happens when they come up with something, they create something, it can and sometimes be taken to do for good, and it can be taken to be for bad, right? So psychology is one of them. And I've talked about this meeting. Somebody was with my walk club, and they decided, they were very excited because it's a very creative thing, marketing. Advertising is very creative. And she thought this was going to be her next career. And she's in her 50s, but she's very bright. And when she went through the marketing course, she was almost throwing up and so beside herself. She finished it, And in some ways, when you finish things, you get to see just how dark it is, perhaps. You really get to feel instead of running away. So hats off to her to staying in it. But she said it's all psychological manipulation, right? Psychological manipulation. And so if you want to help yourself, you're going to turn off the TV. You're not going to read any ads. You're going to focus in on what you think is part of your joy, part of what makes you happy, and the thriving that you need to have. So a lot of this stuff would kind of go by the wayside. However, there's a supporting aspect here for people. How can I say it? I know for me, I bring up questions, perfect strangers, just bring up questions and try to help by putting some education out there, some food for thought, as they say, and get people thinking about certain things or connecting with like-minded people in that way. Because even though we understand the why, it's around control. Is it exactly just China, or is China one of the players? And there's actually a greater group of people, or not even that big a group of people, but a greater group of people than just China, and that the whole thing around communism existed has been to educate children on what communism is, the good and the bad. The good, I don't know what there's any good about it myself personally, but you can see how that would absolutely be possible, the good, because the other side of it is, yeah, we're too materialistic. We're not even caring about our bodies. We've got to rely on the medical system to and all those kind of things, and the education system. So you got all these systems that have to be questioned, have to be, how would I say it, dissolved as they are. The religion, the religions that we know of, to question, are you giving away your personal power to religious, to any of that? So, I'm going to post this also. It's called Secret Contracts Between People of the World. I think I've talked about that as well. Let me just see. Absolutely. Taking care of our health is going to be so much more. Now, Dr. Vernon Coleman. Wow, this will, he just kind of breaks down at the end. If you've not heard of Dr. Vernon Coleman from the UK, he has been putting out video and information. He is a sincere, blessed man who's, I don't know if he's in his 70s, in his 80s, but his article here, actually his video here, is, how many are the vaccine killing? And he goes through it. It's a very, he goes through all the cases. 41-year-old Portuguese mother of two, worked in pediatrics, died at a hospital in Porto just 2 days after being vaccinated against COVID-19. And the links are all here, so I'm going to put that up. Norway is investigating the deaths of 2 nursing home residents who died after being vaccinated against COVID-19. Chinese health experts called to suspend the use of mRNA-based COVID-19, I'm going to say injection, following the deaths of 23 elderly people in Norway. In Florida, some of this you might have already heard, a doctor died after suffering a stroke after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine, and so forth. I'm not going to mention any more, other than I actually want to read out something here. Let me see if I opened it here. And this is particular a North Bay hospital. So somebody works there. So let me just open it up here. I saved it. Want to read it. Here's somebody. Canada News, February the 5th. My aunt works at the hospital in North Bay, Ontario. She says the hospital has suddenly seen a massive increase in patients going through Emerge. The hospital was previously empty for the most part, with citizens avoiding it like the plague, if that was their choice, or they were okay over this COVID nonsense. The surge in patients is not because they have COVID, flu. It's all the people who've received the vaccine. Okay? And she told me that many of them seem to be exhibiting mental health problems, saying that many don't know where they are or what is happening. This is neurological. The injection appears to be attacking their minds as these poor souls are rapidly losing contact with reality. Okay, that was one thing. There was another thing I wanted to bring up. No, wasn't that. Let me see if I can actually remember this. Schools. That's what it had to do with. So let me find this article here. Yeah. This isn't the first one, actually. Central New York School District closes after many staff sick with side effects from the injection. So this is an article, I'll post that. So Sandy Creek School District closed today after numerous staff members reported feeling ill after the second injection, district officials said. There you go. Won't go into much of that. But the idea is there's still the VAERS, VAERS, where the reporting of it is. So you can always go there as well. So we're going to be hearing about more and more. In fact, when the masks first came out, I remember reading a number of teachers were off due to it was causing issues, just even wearing the mask. Then you're going to get it from all ways, right? Gonna get it from all ways. So let me just see what else I have here as far as I didn't give myself too much time to put it together. Here's another little story. So Dondra, I know she was a wife of a cousin through marriage, and so we're checking. We're on Facebook, connected on Facebook over all of this, and she says, I'm doing great. Little story to tell you. I work in a clinic in Cambridge. We are mandated to keep our mask on all day long, as so does the specialist. She is more diligent than I am, as I sit behind glass, so I take it off now and again so I can breathe, and she never does. The only time she does is when she is in her office to have lunch. Makes sense. They haven't made masks that you can eat through yet. So you could only imagine my shock when I got a phone call from her yesterday having to reschedule her appointment for the next 2 weeks. She was diagnosed with COVID-19. Wow. I couldn't believe it. I asked her if she was okay. She said she was fine. She just had the sniffles. Anyway, as Dondra says, I can't believe our country is closed down for such craziness as the sniffles. We already understand the PCR test was not for infectious diseases. We already know that. It is without question that all you have to do is listen to the videos of the person who created it, who discovered that way back when HIV virus doesn't cause AIDS. Let me repeat that again. Carrie Mullis, who created the PCR test, which they wanted to use it to find the virus, HIV, and then he had to comment on how HIV is AIDS. So this is a good thing to test people with the PCR test, which is, he says, is not for infectious diseases, but he couldn't find any evidence. And even the lead expert in the world, who he had a chance to bump into, quoted a particular, go and look at this research paper. There was nothing there to prove that HIV caused AIDS. So what's going on? The why? So have we been primed, as they say, as you can prime your wall with some white paint, to actually be fearful of viruses, when viruses, I've said this before, our body is innate and it's intelligent, but it's only what you put into it, be it food stuff, thought stuff, what you don't do, move around, physical activity, what you do, watch too much television, lifestyle in itself causes our body to be not in harmony. So dis-ease, you're not in ease, so you have dis-ease, and as I've written in my book, the 7 stages of disease is clearly laid out by a doctor from 100 years ago who did 30 years of research, observation, medical doctor back then, when he still couldn't tell anybody what he was doing because it was not the norm to be thinking the way he was thinking. And really, it is not that difficult to understand. And at the end of the day, the 7 stages of disease, these stages of disease, for all my research in the digestive disorders from mouth to bottom, they all fall into the 7 stages of disease, which is why I will continue to tell you, good people, that inflammation is not the root cause of disease. So when you take anti-inflammatories, or even when you eat the foods that are anti-inflammatory, then you're not getting to the root cause, right? And there is a stress component. There can be more for some, not for others, depending on how you eat and how you think, all those kind of things. So I did want to talk about that. And what else did I want to talk? So it's still, from Anastasia book, nature seems to be the absolute, how can I say it, remedy for being well, getting back to our natural way of being, our natural way of thinking, our natural way of what brings us joy. And I was thinking about the other day, well, what has brought me joy and satisfaction in my life? And I sat and meditated, because it was in the book Anastasia, The Ringing Cedars, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. And what actually I came back to was the time that these little maple tree, I had a rock garden. I was about 13 at the time, I think. 12, 13, 14, something like that. And my father let me create a rock garden. And we had maple trees next door. A neighbor had a maple tree, and boy, do they like to spread. They were coming up, and I was actually allowing them to grow. So one remains there today. Actually, they all remain there today, but the one that was in the middle of the rock garden remains there still. And then I asked my father if we could take out the other ones, which were probably about this high at the time, and put them along the driveway. Maybe it's a little bit of romantic, you see these long driveways and they have trees lining them, and as a kid I was probably thinking about that. But he said yes, and we did, and they're still there today. They're beautiful. And that actually, cutting off plants and seeing the roots grow, planting seeds and seeing the shoots come out, that is probably what's brought me the most joy, that in that exercise. Hello, Ferdinand. Yeah, crazy times. Yeah, there's definitely Children's Health Defense has done a lot. Actually, there's so many to mention here, but they have, as Ferdinand put down here, they have put together a really good list and connections and links, and I'll put the other one down too as well. Now, one of the things that comes clear, is the lockdowns, is worse than COVID itself, and of course it is. The fact that they're lying is probably the worst of it, and going to be for some people who wake up to that happening. So about a week ago, I think it was a week ago, yes, about a week ago, I was on a call, and somebody is actually running the show. She's very big, she's from the U.S., and Jackie Simmons is her name, and she runs this suicide prevention show. And what she said was, that really gets to her, is when she did her research, she could see, and it was just stats and what they're saying about their intervention program. So let's say you are suicidal, let's say you've tried to commit suicide, and they're intervening now, and they have these programs, and they give lots of money to them. And so she's big on the prevention side, which is really having a healthy lifestyle, a healthy mindset, feeling supported, not feeling alone, all of that. But she does a summit, so I've jumped in, and she actually came up with the title because I mentioned to her that brain health and healthy fats were my thing. And so, what's fat got to do with it? I mean, we probably could sing that tune, so what's fat got to do with it? So I'll be the last speaker ending and concluding the 2 days with Jackie. And I think I'm going to plan to watch a number of the speakers over the course. So it's this Sunday and Monday, and I'm at 9 o'clock, partially because I actually have a book club, on the Monday night. So that's kind of late. So, but it works out great that I like actually closing up things. I like taking in the information that other presenters have presented and weaving it in and bringing it up and, making more sense of it if need be. So that, I'll put a link down there below for that too as well. And suicide prevention, yep, waking up the world. So aren't we waking up the world in many respects? That's the great thing about what's going on. It needs to happen. If you need to have a clean closet, well, you need to get the crap out of there first. If you need to, it's no different than having your body healthy. At the end of the day, most of what's accumulating in the body is poisons and toxins, and that's what they've been feeding us. That's what they've been feeding a lot. This whole processed convenience food has been a lot of chemicals piled onto chemicals, and whatever else they change in the plants probably doesn't have the same vibration because we're not growing them. Like Anastasia said, have your own garden makes the world of difference, because the plants, there's a certain way you need to do it, but a simple way of doing it, the plants will pick up what you need. The plants will give you, because at your own hands and your own walking on the soil around the plants of the feet, then pick up the toxins coming out of your feet. And actually you wonder why, so it comes out toxins, and then in the soil's all communication right through the mycelium network they call, that there's no empty space right between you and I. This is what Anastasia was referring to, and that whole thing about the phenomena and being able to communicate at a distance. And we've heard about healing at a distance. All of these things, there's all of this connection, which is healthy. So why not with the garden, that you have, and to be able to do that yourself. And you have to hold the seeds, I think, in your mouth, in your own mouth, for I'm going to say 9 minutes. If I remember, it's right in the first book of Anastasia. I think it's 9 minutes. But, you wash your feet, and when you wash your feet, because your feet do detoxify, your whole body, your whole skin is detoxifying. You wouldn't ever want to stifle your body. And that's why the clothes that breathe, breathing, letting your skin breathe, letting your body breathe, because if you get the perspiration and you don't wash it off, it's like crystals into your skin. It's actually blocking the pores. So we want to get things out. And so even like cleaning out the closet, if you want to get healthy, one of the first things to do is actually to get out the junk. To get out the junk that's been accumulating, building up, embedding itself in certain areas, which if you hoarders, if you get these things building up, you can't move around properly, you got to climb over things start to smell. And it's true, when people are very toxic, they will, or if you've eaten something very toxic, PU, those kind of things will happen, when you're detoxing like that. So it's very, very important to understand the whole things are connected. We're going to learn from nature from all angles, which is back to the virus. Why do we have colds in the first place? Why do we have flus? Now, some people will say you're run down. Yes, but how does that work? How is it that when you're run down, you're not eating properly, or you're running around like a chicken with your head off? That brings to light of the body not being able to toxify properly. And so what happens is you can only, adrenaline kicks in, and yes, you're running on adrenaline, and so you get through that project, you get through to that exam, and then afterwards you just collapse, right? You just collapse, or you get sick, and the adrenaline was holding you up, but you really needed to detoxify. So when people have colds, it's a matter of toxicity buildup. When you have flus, the mucus trying to get out. Right? We already know that vomiting is a good thing, diarrhea is a good thing. It can dehydrate you, mind you, and maybe it can teach you what you didn't know about food and food poisoning and certain things. But to make our body strong enough, it's so, that's its ability. Its ability is to be so, so strong. So let me see what else there was here. This was a short here, but we're going to see all of these connections back to the end game, which is to control the world, right? However you want to label that as a political, politics, communism, however you want to label it, it really doesn't matter. All those names have been made up. It could look a little different, and then you'll end up getting an argument. No, it's not this, it's not that. Well, maybe it's something new, but at the end of the day, it's still controlling, and you doing what you're told. And are we also being, are we being used for experiments? Well, we've been used for experiments. You just have to look at Hitler's day. You look at Africa. You can look at certain things. Absolutely. Experiments. Even they'll say about, reading about doctors, about surgeries, experimenting. They don't really know what they're doing. They cut it out. If they knew why certain things happen to do with virus and to do with cancers and mutated cells, but they don't want that, because it's all about, it's even beyond experiment. It's almost barbaric, as Star Trek, Bones will talk about it in Star Trek. It's barbaric. Cutting out and making, you take poisonous drugs to make the body, how can I say it? At the end of the day, some things that happen are actually, how could I say it? If you put in poison into the body, it's got to react, right? So the body reacts in the way it will react, depending on what it is. And so medicines, medical drugs, are same thing. They're poisons wanting to make the body react, or they inhibit things, which means they just cut them off so that you can't feel the pain anymore, right? But you have a pain for a reason, right? You have a pain. So this is here. Well, look at what the hell just surfaced. And this is Virology Journal, and the official publication. And this has to go with treatment, but I'm gonna kind of pause here in a sense. So I'm gonna say this, and then I really wanted to get this other point across here, because I'm thinking of it's a game, okay? So when I think of it as a game, I sometimes put things in three camps. This side, that side, and then there's the middle row. So in here it says Fauci is, he's talking about SARS, coronavirus. This is back when, 2005. So after the SARS happened here and we had it in Toronto. So it's suggesting that this medicine, chloroquine, is a potential inhibitor of SARS coronavirus infection and the spread. Okay, doesn't get to the root cause. And of course, SARS, maybe made in a lab, now you got to look at this. So stepping back from this, I'm going, wow, who benefits from this? Who benefits from people wanting these drugs or wanting the injection? You have your choice, but who benefits on both choices? Yeah, capitalism, big corporations. A certain one starts with a P. They do. So I say no to drugs, and people are susceptible to getting colds and flus, whatever, if they have comorbidities. Now, at the end of the day, if you're going to use this as temporary, great. But this is not the end game that I would want for people for their health, is to take these treatments that in actual fact can have their own side effects as well. They say there's not much side effects, but at the end of the day, what is it? And ivermectin, and then there was that other one out of Quebec, which somebody said, yep, but it's got a lot of side effects. So at the end of the day, if the body can be knocked into feeling better or knock something out, similar to, they say, chemo and cancer, which cancer is just a symptom telling your body that you're not in harmony at the end of the day. Way too much toxins, not enough flow of good energy, and it's simple as that. So, sometimes they're trying to get people to think, but that's what we want. That's what we don't want the injection. We don't need the injection. We'll just keep saying that this is COVID, and we're going to pile on all these meds to these people, and they're going to get better. But it's still using medications from the same system that we're not getting any better. We're just relying on external forces, right? External forces to heal us. When we want to say that our body can heal itself, if we go externally, we're giving away our healing potential. And our mindset on that would be that our healing potential is within us at all times. It never, 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 ever leaves or takes a vacation. That is the truth of it. So what else did I want to mention? So I talked about that, talked about Sacha. Yeah, so in Sacha Stone, just mentioned this one. I think I still have this one up, but it's he's done so many of them. And this one was hard to kind of watch. There's noises in the background, so I don't do. But the idea, what he was saying, if he were to summarize it, so I'm going to say what the 3 things that he said to summarize it, as to where we've gotten to, where we are today. And I firmly believe this has definitely been created by certain minds that have known certain things, and it goes along with experiment. It goes along with eugenics, if you know what eugenics is. Supreme race will rule the world, certain things like that. Crazy things. But this is just high dreams. Okay, so we're going to imagine freedom anyway, and their dreams, they're definitely going to seed things out there. They're going to seed, eat fake meat, and we've got to figure it out because this whole thing over here is not helping climate change. Meanwhile, at the same time, they created all this commercial farming to begin with, and now it's no good. Now you got to have the fake problem, reaction, solution, as Ike and so many others. It's like a formula, right? They created the problem with the commercial farming, with the very agriculture that strips the land. When they understood from the past, they had it figured out. Crop rotation, only eat what grow what you need, and stuff like that. But anyway, so the first one that Sacha puts out there is synthetic molecules. Synthetic molecules. So that would absolutely, I know he didn't mention it, but that would absolutely include medicine that people take unknowingly, what it's doing or not doing to their bodies. That, stopping you from getting certain things. And of course, they've created whoever, medical, the education, whoever created the education, whoever thought that education was the best way to control what people think and do, to create the whole cholesterol thing, right? Cholesterol myth. All these things are just damn BS kind of thing. So synthetic molecules, that's all the poison. That's the stuff they're putting in the water, the stuff they're putting in the air, the stuff they're putting in on our foods, preservatives, artificial stuff, all the medicines, like all of us, a fluoride in your toothpaste. Like, how crazy is that? Anybody who went and did their own research would find out that it's highly toxic, and it is, well, you just have to read the packaging to say, don't let a 5-year-old child ingest the toothpaste. What? You're teaching your children to brush their teeth at 2 or 3 years old. So the next one was bonds. Now, bonds can be looked at as birth certificates. Any registration. Birth certificates, yeah, but driver's license. Remember, all of this stuff really didn't exist. I remember when we didn't even have to have car insurance. I remember that. I do remember we didn't have to wear seatbelts as well. So there's all these things that hold you into rules and restrictions and regulations, and you all think, because there's a problem there, people get thrown and they get hurt when they're in a car accident, so we got to make everybody wear their seatbelts. You don't want to wear your seatbelts? Well, then we're going to give you some fines. Well, you don't really care about the fine too much? Okay, well, we're going to take points away from you. See how they just brought until you're going, well, damn, I have to put, but you can die from wearing your seatbelt. And I remember studying this. There's so many people would get back injuries. Now, if something happens to your spine, yeah, not so good. And things to do with your digestive, just your whole internal, this abdomen area that's very soft. So bonds birth certificate. It's something you're registered, you're numbered, you're all that kind of stuff. The third thing that's kind of been created, cropped in, is, he says, spells. Now this is, as they say, television, TV, television, right? Sports. I stopped watching sports a while ago. I really hats off to the athletes that want to be their best, but there's so much things around sports, concussions, the whole competitive mindset. You know, they're yelling at each other, hurting each other, even the boxers, and you know, they're inevitably going to get something later on in life that's just not healthy. You know, it's just not healthy for them. Marketing, I mentioned that. Ads, yeah, all the movies, the shows, anything. You know, these are the spells that are put on people, what they want them to believe. Because as they say, if you repeat it enough, people start to believe it. And then if you have enough people believing it, then you're the outsider. And then they'll start to ostracize you for your ideas that are different than what they've been seeding the mind, right? So spells, seeding the mind. And this is why I ask people, do you know the Great Reset? I don't want people to focus on it and like it or anything like that, but at the end of the day, the why is about control, and they want to control our minds. They want to control, but not for the waking up of the people out there to understand what's been going on, what has been going on, what is going on, and to move forward. So it's not a bad idea to know the why. It's not a bad idea to be aware. It's a good idea to be aware. It's a good idea to think for yourself, not just even believe what I'm saying. Think for yourself. Learn to think for yourself and go there. So shout out to Sacha for that. And I do have, I think, one joke here. Not that it's a really good joke. We finished our pun thing, so that's good. Anyway, that's a lot about a lot, and I know for this weekend I'm probably just going to step away again, as I usually do, and then I'm going to watch the summit, and that will be kind of like my focus amongst other things. So here's a picture of a chicken. I know you can't see it, but this is just a picture of a chicken. So you have been eating hot dogs and chicken nuggets all your life, and you don't want the vaccine because you, and let's see, and you don't want the vaccine because you don't know what's in it. And you don't know what's in it. Anyway, so if you've been eating hot dogs and chicken nuggets all your life and you don't want the vaccine because you don't know what's in it. Anyway, well, you don't know what's in hot dogs and chicken nuggets. Okay, that brings to mind, there was something I wanted to bring up here, so let me just mention this very, very quickly. And this has something to do with, you know, those markets, and I get these ones to look over. And they're really, what they're doing, these emails when they come in, is they're just trying to go, is this a market you want to get to? So if you're an investor, you know, those kind of things, they're trying to entice you to actually go in. Okay, Shadow, no more barking. So you want to, so really what you want to do here is, I want to talk to two things right away, and just make it as brief as possible. Extruded snacks. So that the hot dog was meant for me to actually bring this up. One of the, you don't know what's in your hot dogs. People eat them. Now, at one level, they've been telling you that there's lips and all of that. That's probably not bad, actually. But the idea that extruded snacks market, now think of extruded as a big vat or a big mixing, you know, they have these big, you remember going into the bakery, which Weston's so been there, big, you know, they're mixing up the dough, and there's these big vats. And just imagine it mixing up whatever, you can throw whatever in there. You know, just whatever. It's all in powder, it's all in gel, it's all in, you add water, and then you just have this ball of something. In this case, it's not the dough. So here, extruded snacks market's worth $65 billion by 2026. Now, wait till I talk about this a little bit more here. It's simply extruded, expanded, co-extruded raw material. Wheat, potato, corn, oats, rice, multigrain. Like, you can take whatever you want, put whatever you want in there. Think of the potato chips. Now, I'm trying to remember that one that's in the can that people like. That's extruded, okay? Not a potato sliced up in thin slices and there. So manufacturing single screw, whatever, that all that kind of stuff. So here's the key players operating in this market. This is where hot dogs would fit in, people. It would fit in. Color and everything and anything. Just one big mass of whatever. You would never know what's in it. This is why real food, when I talk about, anybody talks about real food and whole food, you've got to know where it comes from. And what they've been able to do, and I've heard this about China, is they can actually make eggs, make things look like eggs from material, from plant material, from plastic material. Like, they can make it look like an egg. It probably doesn't look exactly like an egg, but you put your mind together, they can make you look like you've got soft-boiled eggs or hard-boiled eggs, probably. Here's the key players. Calbee, PepsiCo, Kellogg, Campbell Soup, General Mills, Grupo Bimbo. I remember that's like a Mexican thing. Old Dutch Foods, Snack, Amico Chips. So the idea here is extruded snack type occupy the major share in North America's snacks market due to high consumption of flat potato chips, popcorns, biscuits. Like, they could be all this extruded stuff. Now, there might be some things that make sense, and you can see the ingredients, and and that's what they do. They mix it all up, and they make they make crackers, like Mary's crackers would be probably extruded and then baked. So it's not all crazy, but in most cases, the hot dog talked about extruded, that they want to do it. Again, it's so much easier to buy everything in dried stuff and then just to mix it up with water and plop it in packages, whatever, bake it, and those kind of things. So anyway, that's I'm going to promise to get some better jokes. A better joke. Not that that's a joke, the chicken joke, but the idea is, it's there. I couldn't get my joke book out because my dog was in front of my cabinet and it had glass doors on it, so I went to reach for it, but there you go. Anyway, I'm going to wish everybody a relaxing evening and happy imagining and happy sharing of information. And thank you for sending all the information. I'll never get through it all. I mean, I don't imagine anybody here gets through all of the information, and there's a lot. So, and there seems to be, and it's great that people are talking out, and maybe they'll write books on it. So there's going to be all these books that are going to similar. I don't even know if I would buy even one, to tell you the truth. That's just me, only because I kind of have an understanding of the situation. I don't really need it in print. In fact, I'd rather move on and create the world that we want to create. So a lot of information. I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful evening. Be calm, be compassionate, and find things that make you happy. And I keep asking people too, if you're an entrepreneur, what would you do? What would you do if you're an entrepreneur? You can comment here. It doesn't matter to me if you comment here or not. But what would you do if you were an entrepreneur and you could do something that would bring, be passionate for you, or bring joy, or help others, or whatever it is? What would you do? What would that look like? That means you'd have no boss. You would be an entrepreneur, and you would have your own little, homestead, or some sort of a homestead, and living prosperously, happily, and all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, take care, everyone. Thanks for joining live at 5. And just so that you know, all of these videos, I do eventually upload them to YouTube. It's just a place that, one place. I haven't gone to upload them at the various different places, but I do have them all downloaded in my system anyway. So take care. Hug somebody, and we will see you again probably Monday. Yeah, Monday for sure, live at 5. So take care. And I'll put all the links down below so you can check them out if you so wish. Otherwise, go and enjoy your evening. Bye for now. You're welcome, Ferdinand.